I'm Standing on a Million Lives Season 2 introduces 2 new party members and is divided into 2 main arcs. Arc 1 is about trying to save a small island nation from a volcano / tsunami / a bunch of orcs, and Arc 2 is about trying to save a town from a horde of monsters. Season 2 is a lot slower than Season 1. A lot of the episodes feel like they're dragging at times. Season 2 is very slow going to its own detriment. It definitely feels like the episodes are the length that they're at specifically because that's standard for TV. Probably the issue is that because this is based on a manga that I understand is pretty far along, I'm assuming the issue came in that there just isn't enough time for the following arc, so they just awkwardly stretched everything because they didn't want to add any fillers. It's also not great that the 2 specific arcs in this only barely progress the story. We learn that the whole trouble about this seems to be the result of a big dragon that got shot up into space by a meteor that can pass between worlds. It's possible that this is sort of the reason why Game Master is sending them there to prevent the dragon from perhaps doing damage to possibly not just their world and the fantasy world, but like every world. I'm not sure. I'm just theorizing. We don't really get the idea of what Game Master's doing right now. There is a major time skip that occurs during this season where we get the reunion between the main hero and the sort of psycho knight that they dealt with in season 1. The original time skip is, I believe, 15 years. So she sort of moved on from him and had kids and stopped being a knight because she lost her hand in war. And it's a very touching scene with their reunion, and it happens very early on in this. And then I have to say that the scene where they do a secondary time skip and you find out she's died because so much time has passed was actually genuinely emotionally heartbreaking. We do get a little bit of development with the main character as he learns to treat his party members more as allies and people and as friends, but we get less development with the other characters. The sort of nerd girl gets her own sort of spotlight, but everyone else is just pretty stagnant. There is hints that they're starting to move in a more progressed direction, but because of the glacial pacing in the season, it's actually so slowly moving that I don't feel like we had a completed arc. I think we just began to see the start, possibly the midpoint of their arcs. So, this season has an overall fairly weak set of character interactions and weak sets of plot lines. So, it definitely feels like this was a major step backward as far as season 1. I don't think this was the best capitalization on what was being set up beforehand. That said, this is arguably the midpoint in the series. So, I guess it does make sense, but you really don't want to start plateauing in your middle. This really should be when the tension is starting to ramp up, and if anything, I feel like it's starting to actually ramp down a little bit. Not to say that I'm losing interest in the show. If there was a 3rd season, I would definitely watch it. Another grievance I probably have has to do with the time skips related to when they're popping in and out of the world, because so much time has passed. Like, it's been at least 30 years that they've been traveling across this world at this point, just because every time they go there, they're slightly further into the future. And I like the idea of it on paper. I think there's a lot of interesting things you can deal with the fact that they're skipping through time, sort of like a time dilation thing that they did with Gunbuster, but I don't feel like it's the most executed. It's mostly just used for brief, albeit impactful moments, rather than something it's actually interested in exploring. On the other hand, I think that every time they do one of these time skips, they sort of waste the characters that get left by the wayside. Like, Psycho Knight's just gone now. Like, she is just gone. And I think she was an interesting enough character that she probably would have been more useful as a reoccurring character. A thing about Million Lives is I'm still not fully sure where it's going and where it's headed, even though the season does start to give you a more clear picture. So it's totally possible that all of this is leading up to something big, but due to the weaknesses that occurred in this season, I don't have the largest hopes. I'm still interested and engaged with the series, but this was definitely a misstep. Twitch and Discord in the description. I've been Sacrobolic. You're Envoy of Hope. Bye-bye.